Well, a lot of them, at least in the first line, have to come from him. And he does have a more than able trigger man in Knies. Now, Michelli, that some people are projecting him to be on the wing. He's a bit of a manufacturer himself. He's a bit of an assist machine, and he's young, and he's been getting better every year. But I still, like I said, I would ask him, how important is it for you to establish, as I set it up, you've been a goal scorer, you're improving your 200-foot game. How do you feel about you as a setup guy? And it doesn't mean that that's all he's going to do. I'm just saying, can he do that as well as be a trigger man? And I think that would help him in shooting and scoring as well, because the one thing that has happened over the past few years, and one of the reasons why I'm asking if he can change, because he has to. He's predictable. We all know what he's going to do. And we do know there's guys like Ovechkin that once they set up in their office, they can overcome people's, knowing what they're going to do. The question is, can Matthews do that, or can he add to his repertoire and become a passer?
Yeah, I think there's going to, now with Marner gone, there's going to be an increased spotlight and focus on Austin Matthews, obviously, because first off, how's he feeling health-wise? I mean, he ain't going on the ice if he's not 100%. Like, I don't think he's going into a charity event, and they're saying he's going to captain this event, right? Like, I don't see him standing behind the bench. I think people are expecting him to be on the ice. I don't have any concerns really that he will be 100%. If there is concern, like, I wonder, because we know that he said there wasn't any need for doing any surgery. There wasn't any need to do anything other than just getting some rest and probably doing a bit of, training to try to get whatever the injury is healthy. I know that there was, I think on Overdrive, they were talking about his health being in question. I don't know. I mean, it's tough to make that assessment without seeing him, right? Seeing what he looks like. And I think Wednesday will be the big one. Like, I'd like to know how do you feel? Do you feel like you put whatever it was last year behind you, or is this something that's still a question mark? And if it is, it's not something I would want to hear.
David, this is an ugly conversation, no matter how it turns out, no matter how the question's presented. Matthews has had trouble over his career with the Maple Leafs with injuries. He's had a few also that carried, that were part of the playoffs and then carried in even into the season, continued into the season. The biggest thing with injuries in Matthews is that the thing that shuts everybody up on whether he's healthy or not is him scoring, getting points, being a difference maker on the ice. As long as he struggles, whether he's injured or not, the first thing people are going to say is, I guess he's still injured, huh? And that's the collar that he's wearing right now, and he needs to bust through that. He has to get rid of that collar. He has to be Austin Matthews, the guy that is the go-to man for this Leaf team, the leader, the guy that leads the charge when it comes to scoring and also, of course, winning, which ultimately, those are the two things that Leaf fans are going to be probably on the edge of their seats about, watching him be able to score and watching their team be able to win.
Yeah, it'll be something to watch for. And we're actually going to get into a couple of things that Kyle Dubas talked about during his time in Toronto. And he did bring up Austin Matthews in it. So we'll take a break here. We'll come back and we'll discuss all that, plus maybe a potential cautionary tale from some of the things that Kyle Dubas did bring up in that podcast that he did appear on. We'll discuss that here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or even on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data, visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. If you're somebody that wants everything done easy, if you're somebody who's like, why am I spending this much on this? Why am I not able to save the money I feel like I need to be able to save? Well, that's where Mark can come in handy. They can just tell you certain things that maybe you're spending a little bit more on that you want to be, or you might be using subscriptions that frankly you shouldn't even be paying for anymore. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. Want to welcome you all back to the Locked On These podcast. David Morisuti, and joining me today is my guest co-host, Frank Sinishi, who many of you know and friend of the show here. And also want to say thank you everybody who is an everyday. If you've been keeping with us all summer long, we do appreciate it, because I know some people are on vacation, and I know some people says I still listening even though I'm away. I'm like, man, just get a vacation, people. But I appreciate it. Appreciate the loyalty. We appreciate everybody that's making us their first listen to. If this is your first listen of the day, we do appreciate it. And so Mike and I haven't gotten to this yet. I know it was something we were eventually going to talk about. I figured there's no better time than now, because there's not really anything else to talk about. But Kyle Dubas has taken some time to discuss kind of how his tenure in Toronto has gone. He made a podcast appearance on the Cam and Strick podcast. For you who don't know, it's former NHLer Cam Jansen and a St. Louis Blues reporter, Andy Strickland. They've had some pretty good guests on, and obviously getting Kyle Dubas in the offseason, that's a pretty good get for them. And, there's been a lot of reflecting back, which, in some ways I know a lot of people don't like reflecting back on things because it just opens up old wounds. We do that all the time here on the Locked On These podcasts, so go figure, we're going to do that today. But I'm never surprised with Kyle Dubas. He's always been a very candid, open person. He's never really ever held things back in terms of things he said. So they obviously asked him a couple of things, and we'll start with one that I've heard before, but he kind of really went into a full picture. And looking back on what his biggest regret was during his time with the Leafs. Can you take a guess, Frank, what maybe he thought the biggest regret was during his Leafs tenure?
It's not fair. I read it. It was the trade of Marchman. So,
Frank cheated.
I'm not gonna pretend.
Okay, so for those of you that haven't listened, or even there's been a few articles too on it. He said it was the Mason Marchman trade. Right, we know Mason Marchman straight up for Dennis Malgin back in February 2020. Obviously, that trade did not work out for the Leafs. We know that they took a gamble on going for a guy who was playing NHL minutes, was seen as a more dependable everyday player versus Mason Marchman, who had been struggling with injuries. The development curve maybe wasn't going the way the Leafs had expected it. Well, unfortunately, once he got traded to Florida, it all turned. And Dennis Malgin turned out not